Alright, today we will continue to go over the 4 KS question bank content. Today we're on the second question, which is about configuring a secret key for our TMS. Who is this configuration for? It's to assist in configuring our web service. So, in the current scenario, we have an external service that is created through our deployment. What is this external service lacking? It's missing something. Yes, it's our admit defeat, which means here, of course, in this department, it's basically just regular website content. For website content, what do we need? We need to configure an SSL certificate for it. Only after configuring it can it be accessed securely and normally, and this also falls under the category of security. So, first of all, for this question, the main thing is that the first step is to configure what? Configure our secret, set up the secret. Of course, after page 3, what do we need to do? We need to apply this secret to our department. Of course, what should we pay attention to? The important thing is that we cannot modify the existing resources in this question. That is, we are supposed to create a secret resource ourselves and then apply this secret resource to the already existing deployment in the environment. The deployment is not created by us, and we can't modify it either. Everyone needs to pay attention to this. In fact, this is the same for many of the questions that follow. If the resources are already provided in the question as background or as part of the default environment, you absolutely must not make any changes to them unless the question specifically asks you to. You just can't change them. Because if you make changes, it could affect other questions or other outcomes. For example, if you make changes and the deployment can't start, then it's as if you haven't done this question at all. It makes no difference. For this question, our task is simply to configure things properly so that after the configuration, our deployment can start up normally. This is one of the main requirements of this question. Wow, this question actually isn't very complicated. The main thing is to create a secret resource and connect it to our deployment. Basically, it's just 2 steps. Since we're dealing with certificates, website certificates, as everyone knows, there are actually 2 components involved. 2 files, or you could say one is the certificate file ending with .crt, and the other is the key file ending with .key. So 2 files. As for the 2 files, the question also provides you with the paths. You can just copy the paths directly. Of course, if you want to type them out yourself, that's fine too. But copying is definitely better and more accurate, since the paths are quite long and it's easy to make mistakes if you type them manually. Right? If you make a mistake during the operation, it might not be able to recognize your certificate, or it won't be able to read the contents of your certificate. That's how it is. Okay, so here, let's take a closer look at how to configure this question. Actually, overall, it's not very complicated, right? First of all, the first step is to find out, right, what the error is, what kind of error is being reported. Who is the prime? Next, we can directly use a command to do what? Directly to, what do we create in our namespace? We create our secret. When creating the secret, actually, you can do it with a single command. In one command, we can specify both the path to our CRT and the key. So it's basically created directly, and after it's created, as for the subsequent steps, there really aren't many, and nothing too complicated. Why? Because this secret is essentially, you can think of it as the deployment in our environment lacking this safety. You might ask, is there an application step here? Actually, this question isn't that complicated. We just need to create it. As for applying it, because in this environment, the deployment's configuration file already contains this secret. As a result, the secret was not actually created, which led to what? It caused our deployment to fail to start properly. So that's the background, just so everyone understands. It's not that you're really being asked to create it first and then bind it. In fact, in this file, that is, in the configuration file, it's already there. After you create it, it's basically like waiting for a minute or 2 for it to automatically bind. Let it bind itself automatically, because it's always in a kind of ready state, or more accurately, in a not ready state. So in this situation, after we add the key for it, it will detect the key. Once it detects the key, it won't be able to start up normally. This is the scenario, right? Next, let's take a look at the specific steps. All right, let's switch to our remote connection. Okay, now we've switched to our remote connection. So what do we do first at this point? Step 1. You first need to check. Well, you might not know what it's called, but usually the exam will provide this information for you. So here, what we need to look at first is actually done using the N option. We use it to check our namespace. And actually, you can use auto-completion here, which is quite convenient. Overall, it's pretty easy to use, because within a given context, its name is basically unique. There won't be any similar names or anything like that. So what problem do you see here? It's in the ready state, right? 0 out of 1. In other words, there actually aren't any error messages, right? There aren't any other errors. It's just that this ready 0/1 state actually means what? Something is missing, and what's missing is our secret. So at this point, let's take a look at the specific secret. Information. First of all, since both paths provided in the question are actually given, they are both under our current directory. So when you want to create it, the first thing is to add the namespace we just mentioned. So under this namespace, what are we going to create? Our secret. When you are creating a brand new secret, first we must ask, what is our specific type? Please pay close attention to the type selection because, as everyone clearly knows, there are at least 3 distinct types of secrets available. The particular secret we are using here belongs to the key type. It is a standard certificate type secret, exactly like this one. Because when it comes to the type of secret, to be precise, passwords count as one type. Regular account passwords are considered a standard password type secret. And here, what we have is a key or certificate type secret. That's one type. And then there's also account password authentication, which is generally used to connect to things like Docker image repositories or other types of image repositories. So what does this count as? It also counts as one type. Basically, there are 3 main types, and here we're using the TLS type. This is essentially for storing key or certificate type secrets. This secret is of the key and certificate type, and as for the name of the secret, it's actually the same as the namespace. The name is the same as the namespace. Of course, this depends on the question. Refer to the requirements in the question. And then, moving on, the first thing about the secret we just mentioned. This is a part of the certification, which is the file ending with .crt. As for the path here, actually, the 2 paths are together. They're in the same place. You can use auto-completion here, or you can copy and paste. Try not to type it out manually. As you can see, when you type up to this point, the only thing left is the file extension, which is .crt. The other one is the K file. Just make sure you don't mix up the file extensions. After the SCRT option, you add the .crt file. And after the K option, you add the .key file. Alright, this should be relatively simple. The main thing is just this. As for command completion, it's a bit long, it's a bit long. First of all, this isn't quite right, is it? Since it's not suitable, we can use the tab key for auto completion. Once we've created it here next, let's check the status of the secret we've created. First, with n, we add our get secret command. Right? You can see here that it was just created. There are 2 pieces of data because there are 2 files. So these are 2 data types for TMS, like certificate and key types. And at this point, first, now that we have this secret, who should we check next? Actually, it's just to check the one I just mentioned. Right? The deployment. Is it running or not? In general, you usually need to wait about 2 minutes here. Just wait about 2 minutes and it should be fine. At this point, of course, if you don't want to wait and want to save time, you can move on to the next question. Yes, you can go to the next question, it's fine. After you finish the next question, you can come back and check this one. Because for some questions, you really do need to wait a bit. Some questions require a bit of waiting, since the overall process takes some time to run. The response isn't that fast, you could say. The response just isn't that quick. It feels like the response for these questions isn't as fast as for the modules. So during the exam, and also when you're practicing, it's the same. You basically have to wait 1 to 2 minutes to see the results. Okay, there's no problem here, right? I just explained the 1-to-1 type, so that's fine now. So this is this section. 2T, very simple, right? The second question is mainly about creating a secret. There's not much you really need to pay attention to. Just make sure you don't write the wrong path. Actually, as long as you have auto completion, the path is basically not going to be wrong, right? It's pretty much foolproof. Just make sure you don't mix up the CRT. So there's one ending with CRT and one ending with K. Just make sure you match them correctly. Just make sure it matches the options, and the rest is really just about getting the name right? You need to write the resource name correctly, and that's it. All right, so that's our second question. Overall, it's a pretty simple one. Not all of our exercises are very complicated. Some are relatively simple, maybe just 1 or 2 commands. But for this question, it's really just a one-step process, right? The actual operation is just a single command, right? There's nothing else to it. Of course, some questions are a bit longer, so just handle those as they come. Overall, if you ask whether the difficulty is really that high, it's actually not particularly hard, right? Some questions are simple, like this second one. It's easy. If you want something more complex, there are indeed some questions where you need to write configuration files yourself, and those will take a bit more time. But for a question like this, you can finish it in just a minute, right? So don't wait for it, just spend a minute on it and move on. For some longer questions, maybe you'll spend 4 or 5 minutes, and that's totally normal, right? That wraps up our second question. In the future, we'll continue to bring explanations for other questions, whether they're simple or difficult. We'll share them all with you. All right, that's it for today. If you're interested, feel free to discuss in the comments below or message me directly. If you need any resources, you can also reach out to me directly. Okay, that's all for today. Bye, everyone.